What's going on, people? We are Tottenham TV. Another day in paradise. Antonio Conte is Antonio Conte, and Stellini and Mason are in charge until the end of the season. We're here for another Tottenham update, and let's start off with bits about Antonio Conte. Dan Kilpatrick saying many of the Tottenham squad expected Conte to be sacked and were pleased at the prospect of never having to work with him again. Matt Law says only one member of staff is leaving Tottenham with Antonio Conte, and that is his brother Gianluca Conte. And analysts, the rest of the staff remains exactly the same. Conte gave his blessing for Stellini to stay in his absence and help Tottenham attempt to achieve their goal for qualifying for next season's Champions League. Not really surprising, the stuff coming out about the squad. Happy never to see work for him again, but it's just what it represents, isn't it? It's the same thing every single time with every single different manager.
Yeah, and obviously it goes to how the relationship really broke down between the players and the manager. Obviously, when Conte really went for the players in the press conference, that was always going to be a big part of his downfall. And I think that a lot of obviously, if anyone who was still on side, that would obviously break that kind of relationship with the manager. And we know that these players, I think what Conte was saying was right. Conte, I'm sure, was a very intense figure around the training ground. He was always very demanding. And a lot of these players seem to not want that. They seem to not want to be under such scrutiny all the time. And you could argue,
life, that's what they want.
Yeah, they want to play with no stress. And you could argue it's a manager's job to, cater to the players he has. But at the end of the day, Conte's who he is, and he demands the best. And he always demands more. And obviously that winning mentality can grate on players who are not up to scratch. So you can see with a lot of our better players, they seem to step up to the challenge a lot, like people like Kane, always stepping up to being challenged, and always under Mourinho and Conte, he really stepped up to the plate and was fantastic. But a lot of the players who maybe weren't up to it, they crumbled, and you can say it's Conte's job to get more out of them, but at the end of the day, Conte knows these players have a ceiling, and the ceiling isn't where he wants it to be. I was watching a few reactions from other Spurs fans yesterday, and about the news. First of all, I understand people wanting him gone, and I understand that he needed to go, Conte, and I 100% agree at this point Conte had to go. To see people celebrating him leaving as if it solves all our issues and it's like such a great thing that we finally got rid of Conte, this toxic figure in the club, and now everything's going to be rosy. It's like, what are you celebrating? What are people celebrating when they're celebrating another elite manager leaving with no trophies, leaving, having the whole tenure blow up? Like, what is there to celebrate about this? To be honest, it just represents where the club is at, and that there's no forward planning, that we don't know what we're doing. Yeah. That's all it represents. It doesn't represent anything positive, in my opinion.
I completely agree, and I think there's probably the same people that were celebrating Poch leaving, celebrating Jose Mourinho leaving. It's always the manager's fault. It's never anyone else's fault, and each manager keeps getting pretty much done by the same thing. Over and over again. A squad that doesn't want to take any pressure on, chairmen that don't really want to back managers to the fullest and want the manager to achieve their goals, only want to get top four. And it's a disgrace. It's an absolute disgrace. And I completely agree with you in what you say in that Conte had to leave after doing that press conference. But it's not really about Conte leaving for me. That hurts me. It's what it represents. It's what it represents, and every single manager falls foul of this, and it's not going to be the last manager that's going to fall foul of this as well. So I'm really upset today that Conte has gone, but I do kind of recognise that he needed to go, but it's more that what it presents than actually him walking out the door, in my opinion. But what's really strange is, we touched on it last night, Stellini's staying, the whole of the backroom staff apart from his brother is staying. And it's like, do you ever remember a situation like this where a manager's been sacked, or a manager and club have parted company and the whole of the backroom staff stay?
Especially a backroom staff that are known to have been with Conte for a very long time, and through other previous jobs as well. It's not like this is a backroom staff that Conte's inherited. He's kind of one of the big sticking points when Conte actually rejected Tottenham back in 2021, was that he wanted all his staff to come with him, and that it was going to be a big expenditure on the club, and that was one of the big sticking points, if you remember, why Conte turned us down, because Spurs rejected all his staff coming. Obviously, we Spurs bowed to his demands when we were desperate and we brought all his staff over. But I do find it very odd that the Spurs staff, I don't know whether they would, where I call it going in solidarity with Conte, but like you would have thought when Conte is calling out the club and he's calling out a lot of the players, you would have thought if all the staff kind of were on Conte's side and all those kind of things, they would have left with him when he decided to leave. Especially the fact that if you think about Conte's next job, you'd think they're probably going to be with him.
They will be.
So why are they staying right now? Maybe it's because Conte recognises that he doesn't want to be the reason why they lose their jobs as well. But they'll be on for payoffs, you'd reckon, unless Spurs are refusing to kind of pay them off and are keeping them on and are not refusing to sack them, basically, and they're going to have to leave if they want to leave. Otherwise, they're staying on. Maybe that's the case. So maybe Conte feels a bit of responsibility on that front to, doesn't want to be the reason they lose their jobs and lose out on money. So he's like, look, just stay on till the end of the season, try and get in the top four, and then we can all leave together at the end of the season. Maybe that's the case. But I agree with you. It's quite odd. It's very odd, actually, that that Conte, that their head coach, who they've been quite loyal to for many years, has left, and they're staying on at a club where Conte has complained about the culture and about what's going wrong at the club, and they're staying on.
It's interesting with Stellini specifically because he has said in recently that maybe he does want to go on and be number one in the future and get his own managerial career off the ground. So maybe this is the time. Maybe he's thinking of it now, and maybe he won't go and follow Conte to be his number two in his next job.
Yeah, I mean, look, to be fair, he had done a decent job when Conte was out, albeit he actually did lose to Sheffield United and to Wolves as well. He was in charge of that game when Conte was out with the surgery, but he did win 3 home games. And he did say, he did mention it. So maybe this is a mini audition for him, for other clubs to tell him, look, it's my chance to be number one now, and maybe he doesn't want to be number two to Conte. But he actually has been number one before in Serie C. Alessandria in 2017, and it didn't go very well for him. Yeah. So maybe he wants to put that right as well. Maybe he sees that as a blot on his career. When other teams are looking at him, maybe if he's applied to be number one at other teams and they've seen that tenure and they're like, look, no chance. But now if he does well at Tottenham for these final 10 games, maybe people will look at him in a different way. So I think it's a good opportunity. I guess maybe he sees a good opportunity for him to put his stamp his authority in that sense. But I do wonder how different it is going to be in terms of tactics-wise from Antonio Conte, because we know that when he came in, obviously it's a bit different when Conte's still in charge. So if he was to come in and just completely change all the tactics, would that be undermining Conte in a way, potentially? And now that he's purely number one, does he have more license to change up the tactics as he sees fit? Probably. But will he?
No, because I think their philosophies are very much aligned, Conte and Stellini, and that's why they work so well together, in my opinion. But Mason, I don't think his maybe footballing philosophies are aligned with Stellini's. It's going to be interesting to see how they work together. What kind of I think it will be the same system. I just think there'll be a few tweaks here and there.
But if the team were complaining about the tactics and all these kind of things, wouldn't it just be better then at this point to go with Mason and just go with something different if the team wants something different? Or is it something like, wouldn't it just be more of the same if we stick with someone like Stellini who does like to play in a similar way to Conte?
I think that when you're talking about the tactics, fine, it was boring to watch for a lot of the time, but I really didn't have too much of a problem with the tactics, because when you look at it, right, the tactics that we've been deploying, we're in the top four. We finished top four last season, so it's clearly not a broken tactic that's not going to work. It's clearly been working because we're reaching our targets. So for all the players, if they're going to kind of go in on the tactics, I don't think that's exactly what they were going mad about. I think it's mainly to do with the intensity of Conte, the training structure and that kind of stuff, and maybe that will change a little bit. But I think in terms of out and out tactics on the pitch, I think we're going to see a very similar thing.
Yeah, I just feel like I just feel like at this point, if the players were sick of the way we were playing and all this kind of stuff, all the training, how different is training going to be? Is it just without Conte being that intense figure, maybe hovering over, maybe that will change things? But in terms of training sessions, what they're working on, all these kind of things. Like, unless Stellini has always been looking to try something different, and Conte's like, no, we do training this way, and so he's like, no, maybe we should try something different, and Conte's been like, no. Unless that's been the case, which I don't believe so, because I think Stellini must have a big say in what the training sessions are looking like, in my opinion. Like, how different is the training sessions going to be to what they would be been under Conte? Under Mason, at least you know he wants to do something different and he wants to play a different way, so you know he's going to mix it up. But under Stellini, I don't know how different it's going to be. So I guess we'll see how the next 10 games. Maybe the only thing that will be different is Stellini being in charge will maybe get the players more on side to buy into what we're trying to do. But I don't know. We'll have to wait and see how different it is.
I just feel like the players are so set in their ways from this season and last season under Antonio Conte, drilling it into them, him and Stellini and the whole coaching staff. It just makes sense to keep that continuity from now until the end of the season, then change it up in the summer. In my opinion, and I think that it's probably our best way that we're going to get top four. And I think if we were to sack the whole of Conte's, backroom staff and go with Mason, I can't see top four ever happening that way. And I think that we'll just get open up time and time again at the back. I think at this way we might have a bit of defensive solidity and actually have that outside chance of getting top four. That's just my opinion.
Fair enough.
Next up, let's talk about Julian Nagelsmann. As Matt Law says that while Spurs have put Stellini and Mason in charge for the remainder of the season, Tottenham are interested in ultimately replacing Conte with Julian Nagelsmann. Paul O'Keefe says first target is Nagelsmann, over to Levy and Co to convince him. Roberto De Zerbi will be a contender if Tottenham reach the summer without appointing a manager. He also did go on to say that the only two names he has heard talking about with Spurs at the moment is Nagelsmann and Roberto De Zerbi. Sammy Mockbell says that Nagelsmann is among the managers Spurs want to talk about the vacancy. Christian Falk, Bayern journalist, says that Nagelsmann had another career plan in mind before joining Bayern in 2021. He wanted another step before joining one of the top 5 clubs in Europe. One of the clubs in his plans was Tottenham. Perhaps they will give him a call now. And the last one is from Dan Kilpatrick saying Nagelsmann, stacked by Bayern last week, is a front runner for the job in the summer, while Pochettino and Enrique, who are also free agents, may be considered along with Brighton's Roberto De Zerbi, Brentford boss Thomas Frank and Oliver Glasner of Frankfurt also being linked. So, I mean, this is the first time in many years now where I've seen the Tottenham fans in complete unison, complete togetherness of wanting a manager through the door, and that is Julian Nagelsmann. And before that, it was Pochettino. So I think that the fan base will be pretty happy with either or, won't they?
I think so. I think both of them are progressive managers. They like to play attacking football, front foot football, risk-taking. They're not pragmatic managers like we've seen over the past 3 years, Mourinho, Nuno and Conte. So I definitely think it represents a move in the right direction. I would absolutely love Julian Nagelsmann through the door. I really think that he brings a bit of innovation and a bit of a progressive, forward-thinking football that we haven't seen at Tottenham since Pochettino.
Start skateboarding around the training ground.
Yeah, hopefully let's do something different. But we've, as much as Mourinho and Conte have a set way of how they do things, and it's worked for them in the past. I'm not saying that it definitely can't bring success in the future, but I think for Tottenham, where Tottenham are at right now, I don't think we're in a situation where we can have these kind of managers who just all they bring is their shifting mentality and their pragmatism and expect that to bring us to where we want to be. We need a forward-thinking manager who helps us get ahead of the competition in that aspect. And managers like Conte and Mourinho, you bring them in like when you already have like an established core of good players who could potentially be title winners who are underperforming. That's not all we have. We have a group of players who need innovation, and they need a progressive manager so that they have different ways of getting ahead of teams we're competing with. And I think that Nagelsmann would definitely be that. He's very adaptable to situations with his tactics. He's very innovative with how he sets up his teams. He can definitely adapt to what Tottenham have in their squad, and I think he would bring excitement to the fans 100%. I think would be exciting to watch, and I think would be intense. Would be full of running. Would be full of attacking play, and I'd be really, really excited about Nagelsmann. As much as I would love to bring Poch back as well, I do think going forward with someone like Nagelsmann would be my preferred option to bring Pochettino back to Tottenham, just because I think it would take away that element of going back to someone that we've had already, which is always going to be a question mark whether that's a good idea. As much as I believe he could still do a good job at Tottenham, I do believe going to Nagelsmann would probably be the more preferred option for me. And look, this guy is 35 years old, and he's got so much experience for such a young manager. And I think that the experience of Bayern Munich is only going to do him well anyway. I do think he probably got that job too early. As much as I don't think he did a bad job, he probably got that job very early in his career, where many managers usually have to be working for many years to get a top job like Bayern Munich, and he got it quite early in his managerial career.
That he did at Hoffenheim and Leipzig.
100%. And like, for all people maybe worried about why it went wrong and all these kind of things, like, you got to remember Guardiola was at Bayern Munich, and people complain. Well, when he was there, people complained about him, like not doing as good a job as he should have done, all this kind of stuff. And like, Bayern Munich's one of these teams, they go through managers a lot anyway, and it's not as if like every manager that's not completely
it's just strange the way it happened and how like sudden it was. Like, there was no rumors about it whatsoever, and suddenly he's gone.
Yeah.
And Tuchel's signed up. It was very strange the way it all happened.
It is a bit strange, but I'm not too worried about it, to be honest. I think that it's a learning experience for him. I think he won a title anyway. He was on course for. He has currently an 100% record in the Champions League, and it was not like they played no one. They had a quite a tough group as well, and they managed to go 6 out of 6 in the group, and then they swept aside PSG in the knockouts like easily. So this is also while replacing Lewandowski with Choupo-Moting up front with no real replacement, and bringing in players like Musiala into the team, integrating him into the first team at Bayern Munich as well. So I think he was doing okay. Like, I know in the league they weren't 10 points clear like they should be, like they are every year. But at the end of the day, they probably still would have won the league if they kept him in charge anyway. But you got to remember, Dortmund were on mad form as well. They've won, I think, since the turn of the year. I think they've won every game bar one game in the Bundesliga. So they're on crazy form right now. Borussia Dortmund doesn't like whether they would have kept that up and whether Bayern Munich would have turned their form around. These are all open questions. But I think Bayern Munich really wanted to bring Tuchel in, and they didn't want to miss that opportunity. So they decided to act straight away, and they can afford to do that with the kind of club they are. But I don't think I wouldn't hold that against him as to not want to appoint him at Tottenham, because I think he's one of the most innovative coaches out there right now, and I think Tottenham would do absolutely fantastic to get him in, and I think everyone would be excited. Whether it's enough to convince Kane to sign on, that's another question mark, but I just think in terms of everyone else around Tottenham right now, I think it'd be a really exciting appointment.
Yeah, I was of the thinking that I really want Poch back, but as soon as Nagelsmann got sacked, that kind of trumped that completely, and I think Nagelsmann's got to be the man on the list. And I think that when you're looking at what Spurs want to do, what we need to get back to, I actually think that he could be the most perfect manager for this situation, and it's not every day that a manager like this just comes available when you're looking. So when this happens, you need to do your utmost to go and get that done. It is rumoured that Real Madrid could be sniffing around for Nagelsmann as well, with Ancelotti leaving in the summer. So if I was Daniel Levy, I would literally just be going Nagelsmann or Poch, whichever one doesn't go to Real Madrid, I'll take.
If I'm Nagelsmann, I probably I don't know him personally, but I would think that after just being at a super club like Bayern Munich and being chucked out quite fairly after 18 months, do you want to just jump into another super club straight away, knowing that if it doesn't go completely right, like that's 2 super clubs you've had done early in your career? Whereas, if you come to Tottenham, yeah, it might be you might see it as a stepping stone or something to a bigger club in the future, but at least you can have that experience, that bridge between going into another super club rather than just jumping in straight away. I would think he's probably thinking like that rather than jumping straight into another super club, but he might be super ambitious and just want to go straight to the biggest club possible, and that's possible as well.
Do you think Poch is also thinking like that after not having the best of it at PSG?
Potentially. Yeah, I think, but he's a bit different, Poch, because he's a bit older. He's 52. He's like Nagelsmann is 35. He could be managing for another 20 years, and he's still younger than Poch. You know what I mean? So like, or similar age to Poch is now in 20 years' time. So he's got so much time ahead of him. There's no reason for him to jump at every super club that comes to him right now.
Like Nagelsmann could be at Spurs for 10 years from now and still be such a young manager.
But you got to think about it. Like, people are talking about like Ten Hag as if he's like a young up-and-coming manager. He's in his 50s. So like, as you say, Nagelsmann could be at Tottenham for 15 years and be younger than Ten Hag if he goes to another club. So it's crazy how young he is.
Yeah. All right, well, that's the Nagelsmann situation. Let us know in the comment section below. Would he be your first choice? If not, put your first choice in the comment section below. Let's talk about Fabio Paratici now, as Paul O'Keefe tweeted last night saying, Fabio Paratici, you're next. And we heard that he was going to have his court case today. Matt Law tweeted this yesterday. Preliminary hearing in the court of Turin scheduled for tomorrow regarding whether there should be a criminal trial into allegations of malpractice at Juventus. Fabio Paratici is named as one of the defendants. Then DiMarzio tweeted this morning saying the hearing of Paratici's court case has been postponed. Football Italia followed up and said that the preliminary hearing in the Prisma investigation involving Juventus and several former club directors took place on Monday 27 in Turin, but was almost immediately postponed till May. We are all still in a phase where the parts involved are being identified. Bella Costa, one of the old lady's lawyers, told the reporters on Monday. So they went to court, they sat down, and they told to go home. We're still gathering evidence.
Yeah, look, I guess we'll have to wait and see how that plays out. But in terms of Paratici, I think this uncertainty won't help the manager situation when we're trying to convince you managers to come to Tottenham. I think that I think for me, as much as I appreciate some of the good work he's done at Tottenham, I would part ways at this point and look for a different director of football, and I wouldn't just put all my eggs in the basket of hoping the suspension gets overturned and all these different aspects. As much as well, you put into the fact that when we did have a lot of the last managerial search, it didn't seem to be aligned with what we were actually, what with the Tottenham DNA, as Levy would said, and what the Tottenham fans are looking for a manager. And maybe the right profile for the club, it didn't seem to quite align. So he needs to maybe show that he's learned from that, and maybe that he can look for a manager that will better suit the club than the managers he went for last time out. All that put together leads to a situation where I just think it's better to part ways right now. As much as I do think he's a good director of football, and I do think he could be at Tottenham, and the transfer businesses can be good and all this kind of stuff, and maybe he'll go to a different club in the future and be very successful. I think him being at Tottenham right now is a bit of a problem.
Yeah, it's hard to disagree with that, to be honest. And I think that when you're looking at the direction Spurs want to go in now with a young, progressive manager, different style of play, is Fabio Paratici the right man to head that project? I'm not so sure. So we'll have to see how it unfolds. But I do suspect that by the summer, Paratici will probably be out of his job here at Tottenham. But let's move on to the last bit of the update, and it's surrounding Harry Kane. Before we get into Sky Sports update, I want to congratulate Harry Kane on becoming England's all-time record goal scorer. Unbelievable achievement for Harry Kane. They had a nice little moment for him before the Ukraine game yesterday, where he obviously got another goal, and he is going to literally obliterate that record, isn't he? He is going it's going to be so hard for anyone else to come and beat that record, because he's still so young in terms of his England career. 29 years of age, he's still got a good at least 4 or 5 years, 4 years at least, still to play for England. So a lot more goals to come for Harry Kane. And when you're thinking about the names on that list, Wayne Rooney, all the other names on that list, you're thinking, wow, like what a player Harry Kane is. But congratulations to him, Tottenham and England's all-time leading record goal scorer, which is amazing to think when he broke into that Spurs team, just stumbling around players he was going to get to this stage. But that shows what hard work does. But Sky Sports are saying that Tottenham's priority is to get Harry Kane to sign a new deal, but at the moment he does not want to. And who can blame him?
Obviously, look, there's so much uncertainty. Another elite manager whose mentality he kind of clicked with has come and gone without any trophies. From his point of view, we know 2 years ago he wanted out because Tottenham was directionless, and we had Nuno in charge, who we knew wasn't going to be was never convincing, and wasn't going to be a success. We were kind of in the wilderness as to where we were heading. We brought in Antonio Conte to kind of satiate that, and for a time it looked like it was going to be working, but that's now blown up. So from his point of view, I think he's got to ask again serious questions of where we're going, what is going to be of the future. Is he ever going to be able to satisfy his need for trophies at this football club? And as of right now, you have to say it doesn't look like it will. He will, because we've had two managers who you're very likely to win trophies with, and we haven't been able to do so. So if we can't win trophies with Mourinho and Conte, win trophies everywhere they go, who is going to come in and win a trophy for us? So from that point of view, 100% he's got to be questioning his future massively. And the only thing I would say is, I think obviously we've got another 10 games, see if we can get back in the Champions League. We'll have to see who we're going to appoint in the summer. If we do appoint someone like a Nagelsmann or a Pochettino, do they have it in them to convince Harry Kane that he does have a future here in terms of winning trophies, and that we can satisfy that need for him to win trophies? And can he get Kane on side? Those are big question marks. Hopefully someone like Nagelsmann and Pochettino can, but I wouldn't blame Kane if he turned around and said, look, I've given this club many years of the best years of my career, and I haven't been able to get over the line, and I don't want to risk giving the last part of my career to this club, where I know if I move to a Man United or something, the chances of me winning a trophy are much, much higher. I wouldn't blame him for making that decision. But as well, he might also feel like, look, I've given so much of my career to Tottenham, and maybe winning one trophy with Spurs, if I can do it, would mean a lot more than winning it somewhere else. And if I can buy into this project wherever I'm coming, I can give my all to it, and I'm willing to sign a contract with one of these guys. It's a big question mark going into the summer. And obviously, I can't say whether he's going to sign or not, because it depends on who we're going to appoint and all these kind of different things. It's impossible to say.
Yeah, I think... I don't even think it's relevant anymore. I think he's going to want to leave. How many managers are going to come in and try and reinvigorate Harry Kane? Jose did it. Conte's done it. Is he really going to trust another guy to come in and do it? I don't think so. I think that it's going to be very difficult to get Harry Kane out of Tottenham this summer. It's going to take a hefty whack, but I think that come January next season, there could be a real conversation to be had, because he'll be months away from going for free. So we'll see how it plays out, but I just can't see Harry Kane signing a new contract. I just can't see it with the way the club's being run at the moment. So look, that is your Tottenham update. I want to know your opinions on Harry Kane. Do you think it's possible that he does sign a new contract, before the summer, before his contract goes into the final year? Let me know in the
that is not going to happen.
Below.
That definitely won't happen.
Yeah. But yeah, let me know your thoughts on Harry Kane, Paratici, Nagelsmann, Conte in the comment section below. Thank you everyone for joining us today. Like, subscribe and comment. And as always,
come on you Spurs.